Hi, my name is Jeff Parks. I'm an instructor at the Art Institute of Seattle, and I teach a variety of photography courses. One of those courses is photocriticism, in which we talk about the transformation that happens between the time the photographer releases the shutter and the final image, which is often instantaneous now. What happens during that time is that the photographer ends up abstracting the world they see. Photography is often taken as being real, but actually it's not quite. You see in 3 dimensions, you see with peripheral vision, but photography reduces the image down to 2 dimensions and it puts borders around what you see if though looking through a window. So through this, the photographer selects what the viewer is seeing, what they want to say. And through that, we can see the photographer as the artist through the things they feel that are normally important to show in their images. And it's usually a consistent theme throughout all the images they do. They may like to emphasize line or shape or texture or positive and negative space, the interplay of shadow and highlight, or some combination of all of the above. What I have my students do in photocriticism as a in-class assignment is to experiment with reinterpreting photographs. We can't duplicate peripheral vision or three-dimensionality very well with the equipment that exists today, but what we can do is still kind of experience the transformation that does happen when a photograph is taken. And one of the ways we do that is we'll just take an image, one of the images we were looking at in Photoshop, and put it into Photoshop. And then we can go ahead and select parts of that image. For instance, we might take this part right here, show it as pretty much as a square. Go ahead and copy it, and then paste it as its own layer. Then we might come down here and get this portion here with some of the bright areas and some of the shadow areas, and try to use the shadow as a shape in and of itself to support the image, or at least what the photographer is trying to say. And it's telling me to get on the layer with the information, and we'll copy it again. And that'll paste in its new layer. And then maybe we can just isolate the little sculpture on top of its pedestal here. Tight crop. Maybe a little too tight, but we'll go with it. Copy it. And again, get back on your layer. Copy it. Paste it. So what we've attempted to do now is to reinterpret the photograph. The original photograph is now a series of various crops. And in some cases, those images say something completely different. Let's take a look at just a few of those. We'll isolate them. This one, fairly close to the original image as far as emphasizing the geometry of that huge cement railing that goes across the bridge. This one, of course, we've isolated the sculpture atop the, or at least the dragonfly part of the sculpture. And here we've created a real abstraction that's very different from the entire scene. You can't see anything but the diagonals of the shadow and of the cement wall on the side of the bridge. The strong obliques come into play, and the interaction of highlight and shadow become very apparent. On this one, our square image, it's almost totally shadow with very little detail and just a slight reflection off water. Again, a bit of an abstraction, more organically composed than with all the strong geometric lines we saw in the other crops. And here we go to a real landscape type of scene. Now what we're just showing here is almost a whole different feel than the original picture, which emphasized the bridge and the wall that created the type of railing for that bridge. Looks like a very pastoral scene that doesn't play off of the bridge architecture at all. And then here, this time we include the little monument or the pedestal that holds the dragonfly sculpture. And basically all we've done is just isolated this, and it's a picture about it and doesn't bring much else into it. So as we go through these images, we can think about the different things they say. A lot of it is what the viewer will read into it. But if you look at a body of work from a photographer, you begin to see those themes. As the work I was showing earlier, you see that geometry has a lot to do with that body of work because it all came from one photographer. So try this experiment with a variety of images. Sit down with a half a dozen images and do this simple selection and copy and pasting, and you'll soon see there's a certain consistency that you'll have to what you consider as important in an image, even if you haven't taken the original image itself. What you select out of that will say a lot about you as an artist, as well as, of course, as your own photography. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in school.